Hello, this is Yaro Starak, the founder of Patric AI. Welcome to the third episode of the official Patric podcast, where I'm basically building in public and sharing with you everything going on behind the scenes with my startup. So if you listen to the first two episodes of this show, you could tell I was exploring the initial concept of what Patric can do, what it does, but also how we position and plan for the future of Patric. And honestly, like many startups, it keeps changing. Sometimes it changes because I, through research, figure out there's a better target market or a better way to position what Patric actually offers. Ultimately, we've always started with the same core idea, so I don't see any of this as a pivot, but we're certainly changing the way we present what Patric does and who we sell it to. So when I first had the idea for Patric, it was very much about having a voice over AI interaction to create audio content. In fact, it was planned, and I still would like to certainly start moving in this direction eventually, to do it over WhatsApp. So you would call WhatsApp number, you'd basically speak to Patric, and through an interaction with Patric as an AI voice, you could record a podcast, create content basically. So that was the initial starting point. We actually put that on the back burner as we realized the building of a brain process was not the best starting point. And instead we changed directions to the output of that, which was basically giving people a published website with that audio ready to go as a podcast and a blog post or an article. And as a strategy, that was something that was a strong feature for Patric, the instant website, instant podcast, strong SEO optimized piece of content in written form as well. So, blog post or an article. Now, that was something that's easier to build and ultimately a very necessary component of what I want Patric to do. There has to be some output from giving some piece of audio. Now, while you're doing that and building that, all these things come to surface like, we could just have people not even record with Patric, just give an existing audio, which is actually how a lot of people who create podcasts, they use other tools and their studio to record the audio and then host it on another platform and then maybe host a website on even another platform. In fact, my background as a podcaster was always like that. Home studio using a software tool like Riverside or Audacity, even like what I'm using right now to record this, which is ScreenFlow. It's really more a video editing tool, but it can do audio as well. And then take that audio file, upload it to some kind of hosting server, which would actually distribute the file, and then embed a player, some sort of streaming media player onto your website. Very complicated, cumbersome process that sometimes would require 3 different pieces of technology: the recording side, the hosting side, the website side, the streaming media player. And often the website wasn't even hosted at the same place as the podcast was hosted because there's dedicated podcast hosts. So what I wanted to do with the output of Patric was just give people all those things all in one place. So the website, the streaming media player, the blog post, the podcast, all set up to go on all the big platforms, Spotify and so on. And just have that as the output. Really simple, no technical hurdles. Give an audio, drag and drop, or record. Ideally, eventually record through our own WhatsApp interface using an AI voice. So we could do both the hosting and delivery and publishing side very easily, removing the technical barriers, and also recording and going as far as potentially providing some pretty cool AI voice features, but we'll talk about that on another audio. And I think, mentioned it previously if you listened to the first 2 episodes of this podcast. So what we decided to do, and I say we, it's myself and Alice, my engineer. She's been building all of this. I'm kind of like doing the front-end design work. She's putting it together and making it actually do what it does. So thank you, Alice. We had spent, I'd say, the first month on more the voice AI and the brain. Then we kind of switched gears to let's focus on the website and the podcast and the article as output. So we spent another month or so and got a fairly nice dashboard and interface for just doing a drag and drop your audio and have a podcast there. Now, when that was being worked on by Alice, I was working on how do I sell this? So what's the Patric website look like? And I was, in my mind, of course, I was thinking about a target audience. Obviously, when you build a business, you're thinking about who is the first audience you're going to sell what you sell and how are you going to pitch it to them? What's the offer going to be? So as we were building the output, I was like, I think a good initial cohort are podcasters. So people who want and either already do or are looking to start a podcast. We would provide a very simple drag and drop tool to get your podcast up and running, to host a file, to build a website, to create a better than show notes, better than transcription article. So a proper article that's optimized for Google search and AI search. And that's the targeting. So podcasters who want that outcome, who are not technically minded. So I built essentially a podcast page. And I should say I also built a Patric recording through WhatsApp AI page too. We've got that hidden away for the day that we actually head down that direction and build the AI voice side of this again. So I built this podcast hosting page, and as I'm building that, I'm doing research. So I'm looking into the podcasting market, the existing service providers there who provide hosting, and really just the hosts more than anything else. And I did some research on the size of the market, and it's a good market, but I'm like, this is a very old market. Podcasting has been around for 20 years. In fact, I did my first podcast 20 years ago. Can you believe it? And it's not the biggest market. There's a lot of people who start podcasts and don't finish them. And there's only a very small percentage. I think it's about 5% of the overall industry, like all the podcasts being created, that actually command the largest chunk of the audience. So I can't remember the stats. I think there's something like 5 million podcasts, but only 500,000 of them have the majority of the audience, a sort of classic 80-20 rule. And I was looking at the revenues of some of the podcast hosting businesses and seeing, what could we carve off in that space. The idea would be by lowering the technical barriers, we could capture a market of perhaps brand new podcasters or people who have struggled with the technical aspects on other platforms. A lot of the other hosting services have become quite bloated because they've been around for so long. There's a lot of features, a lot of steps to set things up. And we have a very simple drag and drop interface that's just give us the audio file. Here's everything done for you. So that was the initial positioning in market. But then I started to feel like this is not enough, and it's not powerful enough to get what I want, which is a word of mouth component, some sort of outcome where people who use the service go, wow, and talk about it to other people, whether it's, talking about it on social media, on a Facebook post, a Reddit post, just sharing it when people ever talk about podcasting. And I was not getting the feeling like that's going to be the outcome. We're not going to be special enough. We're going to be potentially compared as another podcast host. And because we'll have a low barrier to entry, it'll be easy to test us, but it'll be a hard slog to get the word out there. It'll be a lot of manual marketing. And I'm just really pushing for some sort of, not necessarily a full-on viral moment, but just a good organic word of mouth, because there's something special about what we provide. So because of that, I started to look at the other things I was looking to make Patric do as maybe a short-term possibility, not long-term, in the sense that the brain, while still being a potential wow factor, I don't think it would be a good tool for getting press coverage, have people have an interesting experience talking to an AI voice to create audio content, but maybe the outcome is not that special. They won't use that audio content. They don't want to publish an AI piece of content because it's not AI. It is AI, it's not them. And part of the core ethos for my original idea with Patric was using AI to help the human content get out there, not creating pure AI content. There are certainly plenty of platforms now where you can just generate audio, generate scripts, produce a podcast that's not you. I've done that, and I suspect I'll keep doing that, but I want to make sure what we're doing with Patric is augmenting the human experience, giving humans a better way to release content. So, and of course, very much focused on audio. So I started to think about a better target market for Patric. And for me, that's the small business owner. In particular, the small business owner who doesn't want to be on camera, doesn't want to be, holding their phone and doing a dance or, talking to their audience every day, worrying about their appearance, their hair, their makeup, their clothing, their personality, their face, what they say, how they say it, where they record it. Just the idea of holding up their phone and talking to it as a thing they do every day does not appeal to them. And neither does sitting at a computer and writing some kind of long form blog post or even a post on Facebook or LinkedIn or X or whatever. The idea of writing as a form of marketing is just not something that they have the motivation or the desire to do on a day-to-day basis to grow their business. So basically they're stuck because they can't participate in the world of content marketing unless they use pure AI, which ultimately is not going to be a way to have a competitive advantage and actually be seen, because everyone will do it. It's just so easy to say, hey, Claude, go write me an article, or hey, whatever tool, go create me a video. And you're not getting that unique piece of content that's coming from you. Audio, on the other hand, the ability to speak something out for even just 5 minutes a day is something every small business can do, and I think will not feel too intimidated to do. You just open up your phone, you share a story, a piece of advice, even a background, behind the scenes information on what you do with your business. 5 minutes, and you've got this little piece of audio that can be turned into all kinds of things thanks to AI. And that's what we already do. So we already can take a piece of audio, turn it into a podcast, turn it into an article, a blog post, have it all published on a really nice website. That's good, but not completely the full solution for online marketing. So I decided to push forward a feature that is not that complicated or different from what we already do, which is basically also provide the social media posts to go along with the podcast, the website, and the blog post. This gives people basically a piece of social content, more than one piece, a piece for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for X, for Instagram, a written content piece and a graphic that they can share on those tools, which is really something people feel the need to do every day or many times a week in order to have their presence felt and keep their social channels updated. So they look like they're alive, and also just to communicate with their audience and find potential customers. That is really more the default action that a small business owner feels like they need to do today, and probably are doing it, but haphazardly because of the technical issues or the feeling of not wanting to be on video or not writing every day. But sitting in a car or even on your toilet break, recording 5 minutes, taking that audio and having social content written for you, having graphics done for you, having a blog post written, having a podcast episode go live on your website, as well as on Spotify and Amazon Music and Audible and YouTube. All of this content every day with only a 5-minute audio recording as your effort, your work, is a much more appealing, and I hope, a much more exciting experience to just try and then see the output and then go, okay, yeah, I could do this every day. And that will give me multiple places where I'll have a presence, multiple social channels, a podcast, which frankly for a lot of people is not something they would have ever thought of doing. And even if it's just a 5-minute audio, a place where you can communicate and people can subscribe to you and you can directly be in their ear, even if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Hey, if you want to record a full-on 15, 20, 25, even an hour-long podcast, go for it. That's the great thing about Patric. We already are a podcasting tool. But if that's too daunting, and for a lot of people, I don't think they want to sit down and record a half an hour podcast every day. But a 5 to 10 minute episode every day is still valuable content, and it's still a way for your audience to stay connected to you. Just like me doing this, I can certainly talk. I'm a good talker. I can talk for 20 minutes, no problem. This episode will probably end up being close to 20 minutes by the end of it. But I also am going to do a 5-minute show for a different podcast just to essentially do exactly what I'm talking about, grow a small business, grow my presence, and keep my social platforms alive and updated, and just have a place to easily share, because I'm constantly listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, reading books, watching shows, having conversations with friends, learning from other entrepreneurs. I'm just living my life, and there's a barrage of experiences that can be translated into useful content for my audience. And right now, I just don't really sit down and do that often enough, because each piece of content tends to be a hard slog. And that's what I want Patric to take away from people. Not make it a hard slog, make it a 5-minute a day process. So to conclude now, once again, not a pivot, but just the continuing evolution of Patric AI. We're currently working behind the scenes to get the social media component done. So you'll create an audio, drag and drop it to Patric, or record it directly on Patric with a simple audio recorder. And in return, you'll get Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and Instagram posts with written content and graphical content, obviously generated by Patric AI. You will also get, as always, a website which hosts a podcast. For every audio you create, that is a podcast episode with a streaming player, which you can connect and distribute directly and automatically to Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple iTunes, whatever you want to call it, YouTube Music, so where people get YouTube podcasts, iHeartRadio, and we also have Amazon, which is also Audible. All the main players, and in fact, there's also your RSS feed, so you can basically submit it anywhere. So people can subscribe to your audio and just get it direct to their phone and listen to you while they're at the gym or driving their car or going for a walk, just like I do with many podcasts, which maybe you're doing right now as you listen to this. And you get an SEO, Google, AI search focused article, not just show notes, not just a transcription of your audio, an actually rewritten piece of content that still contains the core ideas, the core lessons, the core stories that you share in your audio, but formatted better for reading and for getting that exposure online from all the different ways people can search for content. So you get basically a content marketing package from essentially 5 minutes of audio recording per day. So my goal is that this will be an appealing proposition, much more powerful than just being a podcasting tool. We're going to be a content marketing tool for people who don't like creating written content and don't want to be on video and like the idea of just speaking out their content in a very short audio, maybe once a day, maybe every second day, whatever you can maintain. And that will maintain your social profiles. It'll create content on a website, both written and audio. And it's a great way to build an audience, potentially attract customers for your small business, no matter what you're doing. And it's going to be super simple. So the idea here is not to be one of these tools that have convoluted editing processes or a content creation process. This is not about editing. It's about just having an AI translate your audio into assets, content assets you can just use straight away. They just click the share button or just share it because you have a URL, which you can just share with people, and away you go. So we're working on that. You can already experience the podcast website part of this by just going to patric.ai. That's patric.ai. And then we're very soon going to be having the social component added to it, which is not too far away. We've got it all designed out. Alice is working on the engineering of it. So that is the plan to help small business owners grow their business with a minimal amount of audio content production each day. I will, of course, release more Patric podcasts as we continue to move towards that. And I suspect, as always, this will continue to evolve. I'm always looking for product market fit and that word of mouth outcome. So the day we get that is the day, obviously, we'll know we have the right thing that we're going to continue to double down on. Right now, we're in that we don't have customers phase. So that's why things are a little bit fluid. Ideas can change, target markets can change, core technology can be used for different things. So we'll see where this goes, but I'm enjoying the evolution. I'm excited to get something out the door and just have people use it. We're very close to that. And in fact, it's only month 3 that we've been developing this from scratch. So I think we'll have people using it in February. By the time I put this out, this is January, almost late January. So I suspect sometime in late February, we'll be telling people go use it and get our first users. And that's great. From idea to very much a working solution, I'm excited to share, and then we'll continue to build on it as we go along. All right. That's it for me. My name is Yarrow from Patric AI. This has been the Patric AI podcast, and you can subscribe to that at patric.ai, and you can find all my podcasts there. I have a number of them, but this is the official Patric podcast. All right. Talk to you soon.